Hey, what's up, painters? Today I'm going to be talking about successfully reaching 2 years of self-employment with my art. It's July of 2020. I quit my last traditional job in July of 2018. And here I am, 2 years later, still not homeless and making art and selling art. I made it. I did it. Yeah! Today's video, I just want to kind of like recap, talk about some of the things I've achieved in my 2 years of full-time, mention some things I've learned, some of the mistakes I've made along the way, some of the things I've done right. Just kind of like a little check-in update. I'm basically treating you guys as a therapist talking about my stuff. There's no real point to this video until like the very end. So if you're looking for like a purpose to this video outside of me just talking about my own life because I'm narcissistic and selfish and I like to talk about myself, you probably just click to the last 2 minutes of the video. My video explaining like how I originally started doing full-time art is at over 100,000 views somehow. Yeah, I don't fully understand why that video got so popular, but we're here. Hey. We're here. And when you're here, you're family. This video is not sponsored by Olive Garden. It's Olive Garden, right? Olive Garden has the when you're here, you're family? Let me know in the comments. I don't remember. One of the main things that I've realized in my 2 years of self-employment is the style of art that I started out doing completely different than what I do now. When I started doing full-time art, I did a lot of like psychedelic art, more like hippie-ish, like tie-dye stuff. And now I do a lot of monsters and like melting skin and like more gory looking like monster art. Excuse me. That's basically my art style. It's just one giant burp. And I found that really interesting because I kind of like it didn't process that, oh wow, my style has 100% changed since I started doing this full time. And I was like, man, like how, as someone who wasn't even really making like monsters and lowbrow art when they went full time, I said art really weird right then. Like how did I keep it going? And I kind of just went back through my Instagram the other day and was looking at my portfolio and I was like, well, it's kind of like sprinkled. Like I didn't just all of a sudden one day have a new style. But I think what helped me get through 2 years of full-time art was just not even an understanding of the art world, but more of just an understanding of like basic business practice. And I think that that's huge. And I think a lot of people are like, oh, my art's not good enough, my art doesn't stand out, blah, blah, blah. Where like, if you just understand practical business, you can market your stuff. Even if it's not the best, like you can market something to where people feel like they need it. So having that like basic understanding of, okay, I don't have to be the most professional, perfect artist with the best line work and the best shading. I don't have to be that. As long as I feel strongly enough about what I'm creating that like I can put some passion behind it and passion behind like, hey, check out this thing I made, like I think it's really cool, and like, you know, have some story behind it, have some feeling behind it, it's gonna make people want what you're making. Literally, I have made poop stickers. Like I literally have sold to people. Like I'm not kidding, like check out this sticker that is literal shit. I made a video with that, put some feeling behind it and like had fun with it and literally made money off of poop. That was the moment during my 2 years of full-time art where I was like, you know what, I could probably do whatever I want within reason. And as long as I am having fun with it and people can see that, most likely I'm gonna be able to make it work and be able to make some money off of it. So yeah, that's been a huge thing for me in the last 2 years. And especially like the last couple months is just realizing like, I think at first I was definitely making art that I knew would sell. And it wasn't necessarily making me happy making all that stuff, but I knew that people were like very fascinated with like the tie-dye paintings and things like that. And I knew that they liked that stuff. So it was like, well, I don't particularly want to do this, but I know that my clients are gonna want me to do this because money pays the bills and the bills need to be paid when you're doing full-time art as a job. I did a lot of stuff that I didn't want to do for a while. I was compromising my own art style for money. And I'm starting to realize recently, like within the last 6 months, that like, man, I don't care about that. Like I have nothing to prove anymore. I would rather make art that I want to make and not sell a damn thing than make art I don't want to make and sell everything and just be completely miserable and art's no longer fun for me. Because I was definitely getting to that point where art was like not that fun. So I can say in my 2 years, I made the mistake at first of compromising what I wanted to do for what would sell. It's not even that I regret that because obviously at one point that kept me going, but now that I know this is what I want to do, I'm starting to find the audience that wants that stuff as well. I can continue doing whatever I want to do and people are going to look at it. And even that's an important thing for me to realize, that like my value in my art is so much more important than making a sale. And it's weird to say that when I'm talking about paying bills from art and like having to make money to survive. But yeah, I can definitely say that it's a lot easier and life is a lot better, even money-wise as well right now, when you're very happy with what you're creating and you're creating the right stuff for you. Because then even if stuff doesn't sell, like I have all these pieces on my wall right now that haven't sold and I'm happy with them. I look at them every day and I'm like, oh, those are sick, cool. It's better than like making a bunch of stuff, not selling it, and it's a bunch of stuff you didn't want from the beginning. Another mistake I realized that I made early on, and I literally just realized this last night, it's kind of why I'm happy that I'm filming this video today, because I like transitioned in style and stuff, and like I wasn't the best artist when I started. I definitely shouldn't have started full-time art when I did. Like I for sure should have taken a break, kind of like drawn casually, not done stuff for money, and you know, just not made this my full-time job. But I didn't, and whatever. But now when people are like, I want to quit my job, blah, 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 should I do it? I always tell them like, slow down. Like don't rush into it the way I did, because I definitely have struggled through certain parts of full-time art in 2 years. There are times where I literally had like less than $100 to my name, but now there's time where that's not the case. And I'm very comfortable and happy with where I'm at. And things are looking good. Those times where I had less than $100 in my account from doing art full time, they were scary and they were definitely like rough on my brain. So I for sure would have waited a little longer. Even now, I kind of wish that like, man, like if I was to go get a job for a year, like I could get embroidery machines to make patches, I could get laser printers for like screen printing shirts and making transparencies and like making professional prints. Like there's a lot of stuff that I'm like, oh, if I just had a traditional job for a little bit longer, I could get all this gear to make my own self-employment and my own small business so much better. So that's something I always keep in the back of my head. And that's another thing that I think is very important. At the beginning, I was very afraid of failure with like selling art and doing all this, because I feel like, I don't know, whether or not anyone wants to admit like, I don't care what people think about me. Yes, everyone cares what people think about them. And anybody that says, I don't care at all what anyone thinks of me, you're a liar. You lie. You completely are a liar. Everyone cares about someone's opinion. You might not care about everyone's opinion, but everybody cares about someone's opinion. And for me, I didn't want, number one, my family to be like, way to go, like, good job. Yeah, like I need to prove to them that like, this was the right decision for me. Not even that I need to like impress them or anything, because they've been nothing but supportive through this whole thing. I cannot thank my family enough for how supportive they've been. But more just like, I want to prove to them that like, hey, I got this, like I can do this. And then like also proving it to myself, like, hey, you can do this. Because something that I am going to make future videos about, a lot of full-time artists and like just anybody that's somewhat in a spotlight or like doesn't have a traditional job, you get this imposter complex where you feel like none of this is real. I'm almost at 18,000 subscribers on YouTube, and to me, that doesn't mean much because I still feel the same way I felt when I had zero. Like it hasn't really changed anything in my life or really about me. There's a little more money, but not like I'm not a millionaire. I don't know, it's a little weird. So I'm like, when I make videos and I get DMs that are like, I watched your videos, like I was so inspired, blah, 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 blah. Like they say really nice things, but to me, I'm like, I'm just a regular, like I'm just Austin. I'm just a regular guy. Like why? I still, to this day, have like this imposter complex to where I'm like, this doesn't feel right. Like every day I wake up creating art and like making videos to make money to pay my bills. Even when I'm like paying my bills online, I'm like, oh, this doesn't feel right. Like somehow this feels illegal. And like I just paid my taxes last week. And when I was sending that check out to the government, I was like, I mean, this is everything. Like I had my taxes professionally done, so I know I'm not evading anything with all my art money. But it was just like, this doesn't feel right. I feel like I'm doing something wrong, and it's just because it's not traditional. It's not what you see in a traditional work environment and a traditional like life path. Back to the whole original point. I've just kind of realized that like at first I was really afraid of failure, which made me, number one, kind of like work unhealthily. Like I for sure did not take breaks for like a year and a half. There is no such thing as really a day off. And if I did take a day off, I was hating myself in my brain telling myself like, you're lazy, you deserve to fail, all this stuff, because I literally was just trying to give myself one day of rest. It really like had an effect on me. Like it got to the point where I was like, I don't like doing art at all anymore. Like I want to go get a normal job, and I don't even want to create in my spare time. Like this is not fun for me anymore. It's just stressful. Again, within the last 6 months, the same thing where I just kind of was like, I just want to make whatever art I want to make. I've also realized that like, it's totally okay to take a day off when you're self-employed. Like, and if you don't, you're going to burn yourself out. And to me, it's better to take one day off every 2 weeks to every month than work all day every day for 2 months straight, and then all of a sudden your body gets sick because you never gave yourself a rest. And that's what was happening to me. Like I would not give myself any rest, and then all of a sudden I would just feel horrible for like a week straight. And I'm like, why do I feel like this? And like, well, you barely rest. Like you don't sleep properly. You're not giving yourself the proper rest for the amount of work you're doing. I've just become less and less afraid of failure. And I understand now that like, okay, if tomorrow I wake up and I'm like, you know what, I don't want to do art anymore. Like I just want it to be the fun thing I do in my spare time. I'm not afraid of going back to a traditional job anymore. And at one point I can definitely say that I was. I for sure had this thought, if I go back to a traditional job, everything's over, I'm just caving, I'm becoming like just another part of the rat race, like I don't know, all the typical, all that stuff. But like, it's really not that bad. Honestly, when I think about it, it's really not that bad. If I could tell anybody anything, like anybody that's watched my how I became a full-time artist video, like I see so many people in the comments that are like, this is my dream, I work this job and like all I want to do is create. And like, that's cool, that's 100% fine. And I agree, I felt that way at one point too. But full-time art is a job, and it's going to feel the not exact same way because it's more fulfilling, you're doing it yourself. But full-time art is going to feel like a job. It's not going to feel like the hobby that you had at one point. And that's something really important that I would love for people to understand. Now that I've just talked about myself for a while and just, I don't know, again, this video is not that, there's not much of a point. It's more just like, hey, 2-year check-in, what's up? 2 years in, I've learned a ton that I've really wanted to start sharing with you guys, but I just didn't know how I wanted to do it. It didn't feel right to just sit here and like talk to a camera by myself. So I am somewhat taking on a full-time art apprentice, a young Padawan, if you will. And you'll learn more about him in a future video this week. And we're gonna be starting kind of like a podcast-esque conversation video whatever series as a new full-time artist, as someone who just quit his job and is now doing art full-time. He can kind of ask me questions since I'm 2 years deep and like I'm already accustomed to living like this. Like he can kind of ask me questions. It gives me a chance to acknowledge things from fresh eyes and kind of guide with things that I think are important. Like some of the things I might think are very important, the average person might not like realize like, oh, whoa, like yeah, that's super important. But then vice versa, like somebody coming into it with fresh eyes might have a way of looking at it that me, as somebody who's been doing this for a while now, like I may not have seen it that way. We're gonna be starting a podcast that should be coming out either the last week of July or the first week of August. And the first episode will just be kind of like, hey, like we're just chatting. This is the kind of art that my young Padawan makes. Just little things like that, introducing himself. We'll just kind of talk about art and all of our stuff. And then I have a list of certain things that we'll be definitely covering on that podcast. Don't have a name for it yet. If you think you could come up with a cool name, definitely comment it. I need a name for the full-time art Padawan Anakin Skywalker High Ground podcast. So these are some of the things we're going to be covering. Definitely budgeting your money when you're a full-time artist is super important, because you can't spend loosely as if there's guaranteed income from like every week the way you would have with a traditional job. You don't know that all of a sudden there might be a couple weeks where you don't sell a single piece and all of your money just freezes. Like you have to budget properly and not be spending loosely to survive. Not getting screwed over with payments and stuff, that's an important one. Definitely feel like should be spoken on. I've already spoke about it in this video, but the imposter complex, I feel like that's kind of important to acknowledge to a budding full-time artist, that like, hey, this isn't gonna feel real. You're gonna have days where you just question everything, and that's okay. Everybody feels that. Yeah, and then we have a whole handful of things that we're gonna be covering. Marketing yourself, putting yourself out there, like there's so much that can be covered. He's a very good friend of mine. I'm really looking forward to, first off, introducing him to you guys, because his art is incredible, as you'll see in my next video where I'm going to be profiling all of his art and showing it. He's an incredible artist. We make very different style art, which is another reason that I think the podcast will be cool, because to me it goes to say that like it doesn't matter what you're creating, it's all about how you're marketing it, how you're running your own business. I've had people say like, oh, you're only able to do this because you make pop art. Well, no, my friend isn't making pop art and he's killing it. So I'm looking forward to like you guys getting to see two complete different styles of art, and then these two minds like coming together talking about this stuff. I'm looking forward to it. Along with that, I teamed up with another artist who's not part of the podcast, but just another artist, and we're starting a new online shop because if you know my videos, you know that I'm not a huge fan of Etsy. I'm no longer selling on that platform, and we've been building a new website. It's definitely coming along. It should be ready at the very beginning of August, I'm hoping. So new online shop coming soon, and I'm really excited about what that means. Excuse me, I'm really looking forward to the future. Everything's looking really good, and I can say that like pretty much this year actually, and I know 2020 has been a crazy year, but it's been a great year for kind of like figuring out this is who I am, this is what I love, these are the things I want out of life, and I don't care about anything else. And that's been awesome. So I'm kind of realizing I like helping people and I like teaching people, and I may not fit in a traditional school setting, like I may not need to go be a teacher somewhere, but I can teach people online and I can give advice, and I like that. I like that I can help people. Yeah, I'm looking forward to like building upon that and knowing that like, okay, this is what I like to do, this is what I'm into, and this is how I want to spend my life. It's a great feeling to like finally have that, because I know that people spend their whole lives searching for like their purpose, and some people never find it. And it feels good to know that I found my purpose in my 20s, so that now I can spend the next 50 to 60 years building upon that, perfecting that. And that feels awesome, because it feels like there's a lot of stuff I could get done in that time. Really help some people, and like, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So that's it. I don't have much else to say. This is just kind of like a ranting video, diary video. Art's cool, monsters are cool. Shout out to you guys, almost at 18,000 subscribers. Thank you guys so much. That number's pretty wild to me, talking with my hands a lot. I know that I left this entire section open because I knew I would be talking with my hands a ton. So I was like, let me frame the camera to where my hands can just have all this room to do things. With that, I can't snap with my, I was about to snap and do my little outro, but I can't snap with my left hand. It doesn't work, so peace.